Let's go to Brazil for you now on the programme, where the President Jair Bolsonaro is being forced to replace the leaders of all three branches of the armed forces. This after they resigned en masse. The Army, the Navy and the Air Force chiefs all quit as Bolsonaro's government faces mounting pressure over its response to coronavirus. Let's talk to our correspondent in Brazil, Tom Vickery, about all of this. Tim, first of all, did those three heads of the armed forces explicitly say they were resigning because of the government's poor track record in responding to COVID-19?
No, this tension with the armed forces has less to do with COVID itself and much more to do with the political crisis caused by the government's mishandling of the pandemic. Remember that until 2 weeks ago, the health minister, the man responsible for the government's catastrophic COVID strategy, was himself a military man, the hapless General Pazuello. What is happening is that Bolsonaro is coming under attack. He has been forced to dismiss his foreign minister, a key ideological pillar of his administration, and he's been forced to accept the entry of more politicians from the centre into his far-right government. But attack has begot counterattack. Bolsonaro has made it very clear that he wants more support from the armed forces. He would like the armed forces to identify themselves publicly with his political project. He's been referring to my army. But the armed forces, from a constitutional point of view, they don't belong to the government. They belong to the state. And it was tensions along these lines that forced Bolsonaro to sack his defense minister, himself a military man. And the three heads of the armed forces, they were very, very put out by this dismissal, and they decided to resign together. But it seems, we don't have this on the record, it seems that before they could resign en masse, they too were sacked, all part of the Bolsonaro counterattack.
Do we know who Bolsonaro might replace these three men with?
Well, it's likely that they'll be replaced with members of the armed forces who are more in line with Bolsonaro's political project. The political crisis is not going to go away. The COVID death toll is not going to decline substantially, I would imagine, for at least 2 months. So the political pressure will continue on the Bolsonaro government. And the question now, one of the key questions, is what will he do? Even before he was elected, one of his sons, key to his political project, was filmed talking about a desire to use a handful of soldiers to close the Supreme Court and close the Congress. How many of the armed forces would be prepared to follow Bolsonaro on this political line? There would seem to be a clear division at the moment inside the armed forces. And today, it's the anniversary of the military coup in 1964.
All right, Tom Vickery for us there in Rio de Janeiro. Thank you very much indeed for bringing us up to speed as to the situation